So moving on, Mr. Michael Andrew, teen phenom turned breaststroke savior, turned move to ASU, is now Mr. back to his family, back to his roots, and he's out there in Hawaii. What do you think about this, Elvis?
I'm not surprised, actually. Not surprised. I was surprised that he left his dad in the first place.
Why is that?
Because of their relationship. They had a very strong, close relationship, and it seemed like nothing physical, emotional, no ideas could even get in between the two of them. And I'm speaking from a personal standpoint because I had the pleasure of meeting Michael Andrew when he was young. What was he, like 13?
Yeah, I met him when he was like 14, I think.
Yeah, 13, 14, when he popped on the scene and was talking about going pro, and everyone was calling this kid crazy. And that's what kind of for lack of a better term, that's what kind of attracted me to Michael Andrew, to see what was going on. Because, like I said, like I always like to see the opposite of what swimming media is following. Like if they're ignoring a story, I'm curious as to why. And if they're saying this swimmer is out of his mind and he's crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm like, are we sure? Does he? Let's see.
Maybe the world's a little sick.
Yeah. I like delusional people, because you got to be delusional to get to the top. And a 14-year-old telling the world that he's going to not go to college, the number one 14-year-old in the country breaking every record, saying he's not going to college to go pro, that's delusional, and I love that. So I had the
straight to the league.
Kobe. I had the opportunity to interview him in my first iteration of a podcast back in like 2014, 2015, maybe. It's on YouTube. I interviewed him on a seesaw. Yeah. So I spent some time with his family. I like to spend time with the guests before I interviewed him. So I went to lunch with his family, met his mom, dad.
Like an in-person seesaw.
Yeah. Like I was literally sitting on a seesaw. So cool. Maybe we'll put a picture of it up when we clip it up. But, and I remember I was trying to tell him he should start weightlifting, and his dad was very against it. So he was kind of, I don't want to say he was shutting it down, but, as we were discussing, I don't even want to say debating, as we were discussing it, I could tell that was not in their future at all. But I gave him a lot of good pointers as to why, and shout out to my old roommate, Eric McGinnis, who was, one of the top strength coaches at the time. I said, hey, let's talk to this Michael Andrew kid. Like, we need to give him some good direction, because he's on the right path. Everyone's calling him crazy. He's this little scrawny kid at 14. No, put some weight on him, going to be a beast. And the sooner he can get it on, the better. So, we talked to him and his dad, and we were, telling him why weightlifting would be beneficial for him. And you could see the dad and the mom did most of the speaking for him. You could tell he was a little sheltered, very I don't want to say on a leash, but he was on a tight leash. So I figured they would be inseparable. Then next thing you know, like maybe a couple months later, they started experimenting with lifting. So I'll take that credit.
Take it.
Yeah. But when he went to ASU, that's why I was so shocked. I was like, wow, they were inseparable. So I was wondering if there was a falling out with the parentals, or if there was just, he was so unhappy with his performance at I think it was 2023 World Championships. Maybe I think he didn't make it. And he just needed a change, because your brain at 14 is way different, in your 20s. So yeah. I would be very interested to talk to him again. Hopefully we can get him on the show and, do an interview from 14-year-old Michael to now mid-late 20s Michael. I'm really curious to see that mindset change. But it sounds like the ASU move didn't last very long. He's now back in Hawaii training with his dad again, doing that USRPT. And I will say something about USRPT. That is no joke. If you do USRPT correctly, that is you'll be throwing up after practice. So a lot of people were hating on it at the time. And like I said, when the swimming world is hating on something, I'm like, somebody must be doing something right. So yeah. So I looked into it, and I actually trained a variation of USRPT leading into 2016, and I had significant drops. And it's the only type of training I do now. So I'm a big believer in it. You can see it slowly moving into the mainstream now.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah, shout out to them. They basically just named it and branded it. It's just basic sprint training, race pace training. That's all.
Yeah.
It's pretty common sense.
That's what I was about to say. Because like when they said that, I was like, this is just your local team that you have complete disrespect for, where the kids just do 25s and 50s all day. Like, that's what I thought, because I was like, that's what we did. We weren't doing any endurance stuff, and our training was terrible. I remember I went to the National Select Camp, and me and Woody Joy, shout out to him, we got steamrolled. Like, they put us in the last lane where it was like the kids who suck at training. And then they had to make another lane for me and Woody because we were that bad, right? And keep in mind, I'm like the 4th fastest 100 freestyler 16-year-old in the country, 15, 16-year-old in the country. So, but it's because we did, like, everything we did was at like race intensity. So we got good at race intensity. So yeah, when I remember when this came out, I was like, oh, like a club team that nobody respects, right? Oh, like. So yeah, shout out to them. But I think, like, you raised some very, very good points, especially on how the tight leash thing, because I remember his technique. Sorry, Michael, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. And I think at this point, everybody's starting to see it. His technique is not optimized as an athlete. And you could see it in his freestyle at the end of his 2IM. I remember like watching him swim, and I was just like, oh, like, I was like, you should try this, like tweak this. And I could tell he was like, oh, okay, but it's like the okay, like, hey, like screw off, like you don't know everything, like that type of deal. You know what I'm saying? And I guess, and this brings me to my final point. I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, as a hooper, improving is like growing your skill set. Right. So if you can only dribble with your right hand, when they literally just sit on your left and give you a straight line to the basket, and you can't, or they sit on your right hand and you can't dribble with your left, they're just going to rip dunk you for like 5 minutes straight. And it's always interested me. And this even goes to the Simone Manuel thing, where I was talking about her. I know she's slipping water, where athletes or swimmers in particular seem to look at the solutions as not a mathematical, like, hey, I'm only producing this much power, I need to figure out what change I need to make this much power. They look at their solution as, I need to go to this different team and change my training philosophy, even though it's worked for me forever. Like, it's like, what do you think about the way the swimming community looks at like getting off a plateau being, I need to change how I train, not I need to improve my math of how I move through the water?
It's because swimmers look at their improvement from an emotional standpoint versus a logical standpoint.
What do you mean by that?
Walk with me.
I don't follow.
So if I'm training at Texas and I'm swimming terribly, I'm not gonna be happy, and I'm gonna say, well, I used to train in Florida and I was happy there and I was swimming better. So I need to go where I'm going to be happy, because happy Elvis swims better. Not, hey, your kick sucks. Maybe you should work on kicking while you're in Texas. It's like, right. Nah, I would rather just leave and be happy here in my, you mentioned it with Simone Manuel in a couple episodes ago, where you said, the coach, you feel like the coaches aren't telling her the truth because they don't want to hurt her feelings. And
I don't know if I said feelings, but they don't know. Like they never dealt with a black girl swimmer who's that good, you know?
Right.
Why would they think there's something wrong with her? She's an Olympic gold medalist.
Exactly. So I've had coaches do that to me as well because they know
same.
It was easier to feed my ego than to better my technique. So they would rather spend the energy of, you know what? Yeah, his kick sucks, but I'm not going to tell him. But I'll tell him, hey, you just went 9-2 on that 25. You feel good? Yeah, that felt good, right? And then
the good old taper lie. The good old taper lie.
Yeah. So off of just that emotion, you know, I could beast a good enough time to mask a shitty kick instead of just saying, hey, your kick sucks and no one's ever told you that. Let's work on that kick, you know, and then feed the ego later. So I think that's kind of the downfall once you hit a certain level of any athlete. Shout out to the race club. Actually, they do a lot of that type of stroke analysis and they'll break it down and be like, here's where you're slipping water. Here's the video. Here's the angle. I'm showing you the mathematical fact. You're slipping water. You're not getting any power. Here's how we're going to fix it.
And shout out to Rakeley too.
Rakeley does the same thing as well. Yes. So I think like I said, I think a lot of swimmers aren't looking at their deficiencies in a logistical manner. They mostly look at it from an emotional standpoint. And it's changing. It's changing. You know, you have some swimmers who go to these. That's why the race club and Rakeley are successful, because there are people who want to get that technical analysis and make those improvements.
So I have another question for you, because I think he should have been at Cal. Personally, I think if he was going to move somewhere, Cal was the place where he should have gone. I do not think. I kind of said this in our group chat where I think that I can't even think of his name right now. The head coach at Arizona State. I think he was the perfect foil to everything Bob represents.
Herbie Bem?
Herb,
yeah.
And I think that it's like you can't, and he's a young coach, right? So there's a lot of things he doesn't know. Like you can't pull that type of yang out that knows the inner workings of just being in the sport at that high of a level for that long and think your ship is still going to float, right? Because I'm sure that there was probably some middle distance or 100 free stuff that Bob came up, which to him is light, but to an actual sprinter is kind of heavy that a lot of them benefited from. And now it's gone, right? So I always thought, like when he was like, oh, I got a special place, I was like, okay, Sunshine, he's going to Cal for sure. Like they have a track record of 50, 100 freestylers, IMers. Like this is breaststrokers, right? Shout out to, I think it's Demir Jagonic. Shout out to him. Like this is a no-brainer. And it's just like, he didn't go there. I was like, oh man, he messed that up. Like, where do you think he should have ended up for that first move?
I never thought of Cal, but I like that. It fits best, honestly. There was a video of him training with Caleb Dressel and I think it was Santo Condorelli, and you know they dove off the blocks and he got smoked off the blocks. So right there, I'd be like, "There's a deficiency. Like, hey, let's work on that." You know? I think
there's a lot of people who should be at Cal who are not at Cal. I'll say that much too.
I think Cal would have been a good step. I also this is me being biased though, because when I was younger, my coach went on vacation and left my dad in charge of the team. It went exactly how you think it went. So I
came back to house on fire.
Right. So I've never been a fan of, you know, parents being that involved in your sport. So I think he should have left his dad way earlier. But I mean, it was working. So it's also hard to say that because it was working. But I'm just not a fan of parents being that involved because parents are emotional, you know, and you got to have a coach that's willing to get in your face and cuss you out when you need to be cussed out, and who's going to tell you, hey, your technique sucks. And also put him around some other kids who, yeah, he was the fastest kid at that time, but if he was training with a top group in the US, I'm sure there's some 14-year-old that would have smoked him off the start. And then there's probably another 14-year-old that would have smoked him off a turn. And you'd be like, oh, like, okay. Like, yeah, I'm winning, but there are some deficiencies. These guys are way better at kicking than I am, you know? And that's all it takes. Because I remember when I went to college, I was state champion in Kentucky. So I thought, oh yeah, I'm badass. I went to college and realized my time wasn't shit compared to these other dudes. So I was like, oh, they're going 58 off the wall? That we can do that? That's allowed?
Yeah.
But if I wasn't exposed to it, I would have never known. So I guess I got to go 15 off the walls now because everyone else is doing it. And I think he missed out on that. I think he missed out on the
mental side too. I think, you know, like you never, even though he was getting into swim meets, like this is the Hooper and me coming out again. Yeah. He's making quite a few appearances this podcast, but it's like your practice should be harder than your competition.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you're at a team where, like I say, Texas, you know, we definitely followed that mantra to our own detriment in every way imaginable, from partying to training. And it's like, you don't know that's how hard people are working. Like I said, when I went to that national select camp, right, I'm like 4th in the country in the 100 free. And then I get there and it's like, I remember thinking like, oh shit, like this is what training actually looks like. Like it was like, I'd never seen anybody like push themselves like that for 2 hours straight. I was like, this is, and do it 5 days in a row, morning, afternoon. And I'm just like, yo, what? Like that blew my mind. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he missed out on a lot of growth opportunities that are probably affecting him now, you know?
Yeah. Cause there's levels to it. There's levels.
Yeah.